Welcome to the Unlimited Discussion podcast, where we talk about anything and everything and nothing. A quick disclaimer, this is not professional services. It's for entertainment purposes only. Hi, I'm Maggie.
Hi, I'm Fallon. Come grab a coffee with us.
Hi, Fallon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel.
Hey Maggie, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
That's good. Hey guys, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to our channels and be part of our little family here.
Yeah, we would love that. We would love that. And today's podcast, as promised, we want to recap on a subject we had last week, which is mother-in-laws from hell. And I'll recap on the post that we had, but also we're here to talk about how to set healthy boundaries with in-laws, specifically mother-in-laws, but also anyone else that you're having dramas and problems with in your life. So, Fallon, last week we were talking about, is it the mother-in-law's problem or the husband's problem on this post? And this is a woman who has been married to her husband for 20 years. She has the mother-in-law from hell. This woman is walking in, she's taking over, she's giving the kids candy. She just walks in and tells the kids to get in the car. She doesn't ask if it's okay. She feeds them whatever she wants to feed them. She plans cookouts at their home and then tells them after the fact. She borrows money. I'm not sure whether she pays it back. And all throughout this, her husband just laughs it off. He says, it's no big deal. She's old, let her do it. And she also has a bad habit of telling people how exhausted she is from watching their kids. Yet she's the one that comes and gets them. She also has her husband believing that she's physically incapable of doing anything, yet she has no issue going on shopping trips 45 minutes plus away from the house. He literally does everything for her, everything. She won't even attempt to change a light bulb in a lamp. She just calls him and immediately expects him around there and gets whiny like a child if he can't come and do it for her at that exact moment. She says, my husband is an only child and it's like he doesn't have the ability to tell her no, but bet your tail, he has no issue telling me that. I know he sees all of this. She's the one thing that we constantly argue about. I would never tell anyone they had to choose between me and their mum, so I'm just at the point of removing myself from the equation. Am I being overdramatic here? And my take on that is that obviously she's not being overdramatic. This is hell. This is not funny. And this is, beyond being okay. The mother-in-law is totally running that household and the people within it. But my real take on this is that she has and her husband have allowed the mother-in-law to do this. They haven't set up any boundaries. They have never said no. They're just allowing her to come in and do what she wants. And why wouldn't she think that's okay when they haven't said anything about it or set up any boundaries? What do you think on that, Fallon?
Yeah, this one's a hard one. This one's hard. So she's thinking about divorcing her husband over this?
Yeah, she's leaving. Yeah. She's done. It's been 20 years. She's actually done. And I mean, when I read the comments on this one, there's so many comments like, oh my God, why has it taken you 20 years to come to this realization? Why are you only walking out after 20 years of doing
20
this?
20 years.
Other
is your relationship,
saying,
your marriage, is it worth throwing away over 20? Yeah. I think, look, in all honesty, I think there's a whole boundary situation. It's her husband, and the mother-in-law, perhaps.
Definitely.
I don't think there's one person to blame in this.
Absolutely not. They're all doing it. They're all causing it. They're all creating it. It's it's threefold. And I mean, who doesn't do that kind of thing if they don't know any better? And she's never been told any better. And if she is old, maybe she's elderly, I don't know. Obviously, she's been doing it for 20 years. No one said anything. She thinks it's okay.
Thinks it's okay. Yeah. Why would she stop doing it? Because
Yeah,
clearly
that's right.
she's enjoying doing it. And if she is old, then it would be exhausting to look after little kids. And, under 12 is physically exhausting. But at the same time, if she hasn't been told like she's overstepping in other ways throughout this time, then why would she stop doing it?
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Is it okay? Possibly not. Like the grandkids, I'm a bit funny about because as a grandmother, should you not be able to do that? As a grandmother, to not be able to treat those kids with sweets and toys and whatever, I don't have an issue with that. But the whole bringing other people over to your house, I would actually have an issue with that.
I would too, definitely. That's not on.
But I would too have an issue if my mother did that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
I would have a
I
problem with
try and
that
look at
if
it.
my kids did that. If my kids said to
Yeah.
me, "Oh,
Oh,
Mum, I've just invited 20 people around for the weekend," you know, it didn't
well,
ask
see,
me
my
first.
older kids, they do that, and I'm sort of okay with that because we're open family here, so the door's open to everyone, particularly, people with needs or in need.
No, but they don't
But
live there.
they normally like they would tell me first. Even my children would give me the heads
Yeah.
up, or
Yeah. No,
they would be like,
yeah.
ask,
This
they
this is
wouldn't
not
just turn up with
a
them.
sleepover kind of arrangement. This is, I'm bringing 20. I've organised to have a party at your house on the weekend, and too bad if you've got any other plans. I wouldn't be okay with that. My kids would, know. Oh, I'll ask Mum, I might have some people over this weekend. Mum, are you planning anything? Can we have a heap of people over, do a barbie, whatever it might be? I'm perfectly fine with that, but I'm definitely not fine with them all turning up and nothing's been said to me.
I think if the difference where I was going with that is your kids are still kids. This is someone who has, by the sounds of it, her own house. She's not living with them. If
No,
if I'm
yeah, that's
wrong,
right.
correct
No,
me.
you're right.
So why is she taking her friends over to her son and
Exactly.
daughter-in-law's house?
Yeah,
I'm a little confused. It's a bit batshit crazy. I don't
yeah,
it doesn't actually make an
yeah.
awful lot of sense.
No, and
If she
that's
was
what I
planning
meant
on
with,
going and her friends came over, could she not just say, "Oh, listen, look, I'm sorry, my friends have come over," or send a text, "I've got friends here. I'm not going to be able to make it. I'll come tomorrow." You know what? Like, there's ways around this. You don't just turn up with your
no, you
friends
don't.
when you have
But I
your own
mean,
home and you
I'm
can do
talking
your own
about
cook up.
adult kids doing that. Like if adult kids turned up and they've invited all their friends around, who did the grocery shopping for that? Are you going to raid my fridge to do that? I've done meal planning, all that kind of stuff, and this mother-in-law is inviting her friends around. Is she supplying the food? What if you planned a romantic weekend with your husband?
Yeah, as adults,
Yeah, it's very
as
different.
yeah, this is. But again, like
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's okay, but yeah, should she actually know better? Should she know
Yes, you
better?
should.
Is like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand why the daughter-in-laws are a little bit cranked off
Cray
about
cray.
this. It
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
makes sense.
absolutely. Because, like, when my kids were teenagers, they knew they could have their friends around at any time. I used to say, "Look, bring them around." We always had people at our place. We always had people staying over. It wasn't a free for all, but it was certainly open house in the sense we had a lot of children who, didn't have happy homes and so forth. They were always welcome to come and stay. It was a safe haven for
Yeah,
multitudes of children, and it was always perfectly okay. And if they wanted to do, like a computer party or a games night or something like that, they could always just do that without any forward planning. It's okay, bring them, we'll put on a Barbie, whatever. This kind
yeah.
of stuff, this is so different. I think they've been really patient with this mother-in-law.
I think though, like you said at the start, why have they not pulled that in at the start themselves
Yeah,
though?
I can't believe it.
I think the dynamics is a little bit of everybody's fault because I mean there was certain things that could have been done. I don't think it warrants throwing away 20 years of marriage, and I don't think it's definitely not going to get any better through divorce. Nothing will change through divorce.
No,
So if she
absolutely
thinks that
not.
divorcing is going to stop it, it's not going
Yeah.
to stop it. And if
And you
she
know
thinks
what?
that by taking the kids away from their father is going to help, it's not going to help.
That's
And
right.
she also doesn't have legal rights to do that.
No,
So maybe the best thing is to sort the issues out and not allow
absolutely.
these issues to happen
Yep,
in the
that's
first
right.
place, and they wouldn't be in this predicament.
Because, we were talking about, how to set up healthy boundaries today. And when I look at the comments here, most of them are saying time to find a husband who will respect you and blah, 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 blah. And, well, you need to get a divorce. And I got divorced after 13 years of marriage because of a similar thing, all this kind of stuff. That's not helping her. And as you said, Fallon, she will go into another relationship or leave this still not knowing that it was so easily fixable by having
So
healthy
easily.
boundaries. And one of the things that they needed to do was have healthy boundaries within their marriage so that they knew where those limits were, so they could set up boundaries together where the
Yeah.
mother-in-law or anyone else was concerned in their home. It really does need to be done. And one of those things, and I don't know if you agree with this, Fallon, but had she and her husband sat down and said, okay, well, look, I love your mum, but one of my boundaries is that she can't just walk into her house or organise things at our house whenever she feels like it. She needs to ring us and give us notice because we might have had plans for the weekend. I might not necessarily feel like having company over on the weekend and she's inviting all her friends around.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It would make you live on the edge a little bit because you never know from one moment to the next of what's happening in your home. And we do need to remember that this is her home, this is her family home. And you
Absolutely.
have the right to be comfortable in your family home and not feel like you are on edge of what's going to happen in any moment. You
That's
shouldn't
right.
also have to feel that you need to lock your doors to keep her
Exactly.
out.
Yeah. And also, like, where is the respect for someone else's home and family
Yeah,
life? I know she's part of the family in this situation. She is. She's the mum-in-law. She's the grandmother to those kids. Those kids probably adore her, absolutely adore her, as they should.
yeah,
But there has to be a certain amount of respect for someone else's home. You don't just trudge into someone else's home. We have an open door policy here. Like, my mum-in-law can come in here at any time. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But when it comes to inviting other people over, you don't just make plans for my home. Like that's a real barrier breaker for me. A boundary breaker is you don't do that. You ask me beforehand, you let me know beforehand. And if it's okay with us, not just me, but us as a couple, then we'll go ahead and do that. But if it's not okay for either one of us, because, your husband might not want it either, then it doesn't happen. You find somewhere else or you do it on another day or put it off or whatever. You have to respect other people's property, other people's homes, other people's space. That is a
other
major
people's
boundary
privacy.
breaker. Other
Yeah,
people's privacy. Have some respect, you know?
yeah,
So I think how to set up these boundaries is to sit down and talk about, okay, well, I would be okay with this, but I'm definitely not okay with that. And that's where you start. And again, using this as an example, that would be one of my boundaries. When you have a mother-in-law like that, that would definitely be a boundary for me. Okay, I'm okay with her bringing friends over and having a cookout or whatever, but I need notice. And if we're doing something on that day or that night or, we just don't feel up to it, then she needs to plan it for another weekend. Let's go with that, you know. And I'm sure, having prearranged that, your husband is going to be perfectly fine with that. And you both just say, one of my boundaries is that I need you to respect me enough to back me up in that situation. If you don't back me up, then we don't have a relationship, because part of your relationship is respecting each other's boundaries.
Well, I think that's the core of it, and that should have happened, when you talk
20
about having
years ago.
children, getting, yeah,
Yeah.
20 years ago, when you actually establish, okay, we're in a relationship, we're gonna get married, or we're having a baby, or we're buying a house, or that's when you should definitely sit down and make those boundaries. If, for example, the grandmother does start to come around and take off those children, again, you sit down and have those boundaries spoken about. You have that meeting with your partner. It doesn't happen once. It happens a
No,
million times in a
yes.
healthy relationship.
Yeah.
But it needs to start at the start. And then as things arrive, you need to go back through and you need to sit down and you need to establish more rules or more
That's
boundaries,
right.
or I can't do this, or I can't accept this. So we need to work together as a
Yeah,
team.
that's
And
right.
with my relationship I have, everything is about a team.
Yeah,
If one of us is not feeling part of that team, then that stuff needs to change immediately. We do
yeah,
not work together, not as a team. I'm not saying that we're
absolutely.
perfect. Absolutely, we have issues, we have problems just like everybody else in this world that we live in. But you must you must feel comfortable to sit down and constantly have those discussions without arguments. It's a discussion to sort a situation. It's not open to have an argument of a situation. And
Yeah,
again, this wouldn't be all bottled up into the point that surely she knows deep down
someone's
inside this
leaving.
isn't the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. Oh, I don't
And
know.
and that she feels the necessarily aspect of her wanting to leave is a really bad situation to be in when it's
I th
actually easily solved.
Yeah, and I think the problem is some people just leave it to the point where they're like, "Well, that's it, I'm done, I can't do this anymore," and that's where divorce happens, and that's really sad. But what they don't realise is it's partly their problem because they haven't put those boundaries in place. They haven't said, "Okay, this is not happening. I can't do this. This is a boundary I have to put up because that is not me. I can't cope with that." Whatever it might be. And the other person as well, like the partner, the husband, the wife, whoever it might be, the other person, the other team member is within their rights to say, well, I need to do this because it's part of, my makeup and how I am. And then you just start, okay, discuss the point of, well, okay, I'm okay for you to do that, but I'm not going there. I can't do that. Or, go and do that outside of the household or whatever it might be. You go to your mum-in-law's place. Excuse me, you set this up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think part of her problem is that um, her husband is at his mother's beck and call, and she's not. She's maybe doesn't realise it, but she's playing second fiddle to his first wife, which is his mother. And that's just so wrong. Like, they haven't actually established, he's never established the fact that he's not married to his mother. He's an only child. Obviously, we love our mums. We want to do everything for our mum, and we do, especially when they're getting older. We want to look after them and so forth, and we do. It's only right that you do that. But when it comes to, "Mum, I can't come right now," then she has to accept that as a personal limitation. "I'll come tomorrow or the day after," and leave it at that, Mum. She needs to be told, "It's not okay, Mum." He's never actually set up a boundary with her,
Mm.
and that's half the problem. It is.
Yeah,
So,
there's definitely no boundaries being put anywhere, perhaps, in this situation.
yeah.
And, again, these are easily solved. It's going to take time to rewind this, as it always does, because then everyone's got to sit on the same page. And,
Mm.
but it can't, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I can see how this can easily be set properly and
Salvageable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Let's
don't think
let's
divorce is the answer
fix it.
here.
No, it's not, because both of them, they've never set up boundaries. Obviously, and there's a certain emotional maturity that comes to being able to set up a boundary and know how to be assertive about it without being offensive. Um, and that comes with time. But as long as you're clear about those boundaries and limitations, it's like putting a fence up. Okay, I'm going to let certain people in beyond that fence, but other people need to ask. Like, I'm not going to let just any old person in my front door. You need to be invited in. That's what a boundary is. A boundary is like setting up something physical, like a door, and saying, well, I let this person come in, but you can't. You have to ask. You need to be invited. You don't get to just walk in.
I
We
think,
have
yeah, definitely. It certainly don't just allow the kids to run out and jump in the car either. I mean, what,
absolutely
like,
not.
I wouldn't want I wouldn't want that from anybody to do that. What if she had
No,
something planned with her kids or whatever, and then, like, no, I wouldn't be okay with that.
no, I
It's
really
not so
wouldn't.
much a safety direction of things. Of course, you feel like your mother or your mother-in-law is going to be safe with your kids.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a respect
Well,
of,
yeah,
have
we are
you,
like that.
we're going
Yeah,
to take your kids. Is that okay? Have you got anything planned? It is just respect.
exactly. You're like, did you have plans with your kids? Because I'd love to take them today. And,
Yeah,
I might turn up at your place, as an example. I might turn up at your place and say to you, did you have plans today? Because I'd love to take the kids to the park. And you can say yes or no. I'm never going to overstep it to the point where I'm saying, no, I'm taking them, get in the car, kids. Because
yeah.
it's not up to me to do that. I have to actually ask you out of respect for you and your position as their mother.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, look, I'm a very big advocate for grandparents' rights, but I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
they're still overstepping, and that's one thing I
Yes.
wouldn't want to
No,
happen to me. It's also not
no,
something I would do to one of my kids as well with their kids,
no,
let alone my daughter-in-law. You know
no.
what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And as
again,
far as
maybe it's
sorry.
setting boundaries with the kids. No, if grandma turns up, we love her, but you're not
Yeah,
to do that anymore because that's actually not okay.
yeah, it's
And grandma needs to
disrespectful.
come in and ask, or grandma needs to let me and dad know, so again,
Yeah,
it's simple things that have just been let go and got out of hand that just needs to
yeah,
be pulled back in and reeled back in, and there's easy solutions to this. If it perhaps, I think, you may correct me again on this. I think you said in that write-up that she has asked quite a few times and is getting ignored. Then perhaps if she has stated this and she has asked a few times and it is literally getting ignored, then this is a little bit beyond to that you should have just set boundaries. It then needs to be, okay, we actually need to enforce the boundaries.
yeah. Oh,
And that's not
definitely.
meaning divorce or separation. I'm not saying that. But if you are getting to a point that you're being laughed at, you're being shrugged off, and you're not being heard by either party, then I could actually establish why she's leaving or why she's wanting to leave.
Yeah,
Because perhaps that is the hit on the head of the nail that needs to actually happen. No, I'm being serious. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm sick of this. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm out.
yeah,
So it really depends on the level of where the boundaries either haven't been set, need to be set, or the boundaries are there, but they're being completely ignored. And this is sort of
yes,
where I'm going to just put my opinion in, is this. My partner and his family, that's his problem, it's his issue, and my family are my problem and my issue. And this is where I was saying about working as a team.
yeah,
You must work as a team together. If I have a problem, it is my partner's problem to deal with that situation,
absolutely.
and vice versa. So it might even just be as simple, I might be reading into it wrong, but him laughing and shrugging it off. Maybe he grew up that way. Maybe he doesn't see the big issue. You know what? The kids are going to mum's once a week. Let them have their sugar because they're not allowed to have it here. You are being uptight wife and you need to calm it down. We don't really know. But if there is actually, this is a much serious problem and it is got out of hand, then it is actually his problem. He needs
Yeah,
to deal with it and he
yeah,
needs to sit down and say, you know what, mum, this has actually got out of hand. You can't just turn up like that. We had plans, or if we did have plans, we would have had to cancel. And that's not okay that you're doing that. Please stop bringing people around to our home. You're forgetting the boundaries of this is actually our home. It's not a drop in center for you. Like just things
yeah.
like that. And he actually
Because
does need to step up to that plate.
absolutely, and he's not, by laughing it off and shrugging it off, he's not respecting his wife. He's also not respecting her home and the family home, in the sense that he's just letting someone else come in and take over like that. He's not respecting their family unit as a whole, in the sense that it's their little family. And what his
Yeah.
wife says needs to have some impact as well. It's being laughed off. It's okay. It's just mum. She's old. Get over it. It's not okay. So she really does need to talk to him about, okay, these are my boundaries. They are constantly being broken. But another boundary I have is that we're not working together as a team. I'm not getting the support I need from you for my own well-being and the well-being of our family unit. It's breaking our family unit. And that's the beginning of that conversation. We need to set up
Yeah.
some healthy boundaries so that this doesn't happen, because I can't deal with this anymore. I'm done. So I need you to start working with me, because I can't keep doing this anymore. I am
Yeah.
absolutely done. Because maybe he's laughing it off. He possibly doesn't actually realise how badly it is affecting her. Although she says, this is the one thing we constantly argue about. You would think he'd start to take it seriously, but some men don't, let's be honest. Or they want to ignore the fact because they don't actually know how to deal with it. Well, it's easy to deal with it. Put some boundaries in and just say, Mum, this isn't working for us. We need to sit down and have a
Mm.
chat. This is what we need from you. It's affecting our well-being as a couple. It's affecting our well-being as a family unit. And we need to discuss and talk about it, because you know what? She may actually be really understanding about it and work with you on it. And if she's not, then you need to keep that team effort going, work together, be assertive, and just say, no, this can't happen anymore. Things need to change.
Yeah, exactly. And it really does need to start with that sit down talk of no, we're not laughing this off. I think with
Yeah.
all men, I don't think it's about being the only child. I think that being the only child does make it worse in my own experience, but I don't think it's even necessarily that. I think when you have open living guys who have a little bit of overbearing women,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know how to deal with, I must upstep
Yeah.
my game and really see issues, and then have to put my mother into place that she's always been like this. I think sometimes there at times is issues that because you've married your man, that man must change to your aspect and the way you're living. We always have to remember we are choosing the partners that we have in the beginning.
Yeah.
You have a right to choose them, you also have a right to leave them. You can't expect them to change. In saying that, I also have an understanding that men's maturity of how life grows is a lot different to women. And we do live on different planets, as it said. I think majority of them don't even know how to go about dealing with the situation. They're so mediocre and well, here in Australia, they're so mediocre. They're so, I don't want to upset my mum. I don't want to upset my wife or a girlfriend or whoever she is, but I will just agree with everybody and nothing gets sorted, everything gets
Yeah,
worse, and then the women start to battle against each other,
that's
which is
right.
really sad
It
because, like
is.
you said, this mother-in-law might be like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize that you actually had a problem. Why didn't you say something?
Yeah, my son's okay with it. No, actually, our relationship is suffering because of it.
Why didn't someone say something?
Yeah, why
Why
didn't
wasn't this
they?
actually properly brought to my attention? Why are you
Yeah,
letting the kids get in my car?" So I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think, there definitely needs to be that conversation with the mother or mother-in-law. And I think they need to start to sit down and work out what is the actual problems, make a plan, make boundaries, good, safe boundaries, but comfortable boundaries.
yeah,
And then they've got a chance to work on their marriage. And
yeah,
also work with boundaries with the children. My children would never run out and jump into somebody's car.
absolutely. And I mean, that's teaching them then what boundaries are to start with and how to do it assertively without offending anybody. No, you just say to grandma,
Absolutely.
no, we have to ask mum first because she's the boss, and you go and run off and ask mum. You don't just get into grandma's car just because it's grandma. So they're
Absolutely.
respecting your boundaries, but they're also learning it's not okay to disrespect someone's boundaries.
Absolutely. And as the wife in this situation, I could just imagine how it would actually feel. Her own kids are disrespecting her. Her mother-in-law
Yeah,
is disrespecting her. Her partner's disrespecting her.
yeah,
And she's living in a house walking on eggshells and round in circles because she doesn't actually know what's happening from one
that's
minute to the
right.
next. So, I
And
mean, like, I understand where she's at and how
yeah,
frustrating and depressing it could actually be for her.
and feeling like the least important person in all of that situation because nobody's listening to her
Oh,
and
absolutely.
she's been
She
laughed
means
off or
nothing.
just, yeah, shrugged off. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you think or what you want. And that's so unfair. That's really just wrong. Again, it's about having confidence and about having the tools to do things assertively and to say, well, okay, I'm not happy about this. So we need to put some boundaries in place here. Let's talk about it. And then you go setting up sort of what you'd like. Again, being unfair. And I
Absolutely.
mean, a boundary doesn't necessarily mean that you can't change your mind once in a while. It's like, well, why don't you just pop over with your friends and blah 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 and have a cookout this weekend or whatever. You might just break those rules that you have in place because sometimes you are okay with it. It's just not okay all the time.
And it could be just the fact that she feels like she's got no control in her life. By giving a little bit of control may actually sort the issues out.
Absolutely.
But again,
Yeah,
like the mother bringing friends over or doing cookouts or whatever,
yeah,
you can't do that here. If you're going to have friends over, mum, you need to do that at your own place. From now on, please. We're not doing that
yeah.
here anymore.
Or
You
at
know
least
what?
give
Every
us some
third Sunday
notice.
of the month, we're going to
Yeah,
do a cookout. So she's got a little bit of control. She's got a little preparation of what's coming. There's a bit
yeah,
of a plan. There's boundaries put into place. And she's feeling like she's got control over her family.
yeah. And I mean, like, yes, they've been married 20 years, but they might have had other plans for that weekend. They might have been planning a romantic dinner and, a night in for themselves. And here, here comes mum-in-law with all of her friends. Like there's an extra dozen people there making a mess and all that kind of stuff and taking over her house to do a cookout. And there goes the romantic weekend. They may not have been able to be romantic if you get my drift for several weeks beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it's a
exactly.
big
So,
thing. It's not just okay to do those kinds of things. And what we'd like to
no.
know is from our audience, what boundaries and limitations you have and how you've gone about setting up boundaries sort of over the course of your life as a teenager, even a young single person, a married person, girlfriend, boyfriend relationships, whatever it is, how you went about doing that. And if you need any more help, please leave us a comment because we're happy to touch on this again in another podcast and discuss it and give you more hints and tips on that because it is one of the most important things in life is to feel confident in knowing what you will and won't put up with and what's okay and what's not okay, but how to reel things back in when they get out of control. Not
Yes,
every marriage
absolutely.
has to end in divorce. Like, there are lots. I found that, with some social media things, like, everyone sort of rushes straight in and says, "Oh, you need to get divorced, get rid of him or her," or whatever. Divorce happens too quickly. There's so many solutions to a lot of the things that go on in relationships. It's normal to have problems in relationships because that's what allows relationships to grow and evolve over a period of time. And if that
Yeah,
doesn't happen, then your relationship's not evolving. So problems are not always a bad thing.
yeah, and it does allow you to grow as a person as well as your relationship. And I think what they
Yeah,
need to remember is this isn't just about them. They've brought kids into this. And it does affect kids' lives when it
absolutely.
is being ripped apart and separated and whatever, all because we couldn't sit down and have a proper conversation about it.
Yeah,
We can't live like we're in our 20s and live that 20-year-old relationship. You have to actually grow. You've got to grow. Why would you not want to?
yeah, that's
So,
right.
in doing that makes you able, to grow in a situation, to grow up in a situation, to learn new ways and new tactics. It is what it is. But just so we are understanding, we are not professional advisors. We are just
No, that's
openly
right.
conversationing here. So please don't
Yeah,
take this as professional
it's
advice.
not professional advice, it's just from two women who have had issues of our own over the past that have learned from them, and we're happy to share from our own experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just fun chats.
Yeah,
But don't
and keep
forget to like
sorry.
and subscribe as well. But yeah, I'm also interested to know, what boundaries have you had to put in? What was your circumstances where you've had to
Yeah,
come through and go, oh geez, okay, we've got to actually put a boundary in here. Let us know in the comments below, not only because I want to know, but also, it might help other people on how to
yeah,
redirect their issues, because we all have different types of issues in all different
yeah,
aspects. So let us know what you think and what you've done.
and there's things that we don't think about that you might have thought about that haven't even occurred to us because 'cause we're all different, we all come from different perspectives and knowledge and background, so we're really
Yeah,
interested in hearing what, everyone else's experience and what their thoughts are. We're open to it. Bring it on.
absolutely. I think it's good that we're chatting about this because, like you said, it doesn't have to always end up in divorce. Divorce is so quick
No,
these
God,
days
no.
when there is actually simple solutions around this. So
Yeah,
it's good to have an
absolutely.
open talk about it. Don't jump into divorce, girls, just because you feel like you've got no other option.
Yeah,
There's
because
always other
there's
options.
generally always other options.
And to someone who's been through a divorce and custody battle, I can assure you that
Yes.
your problems aren't going to go away. This is
Yeah,
going to create more
yeah.
problems than you could ever think of.
Especially where boundaries are concerned, because if you don't have boundaries in place now and you end up in divorce, they're not your boundaries are not gonna be respected where the
You
kids are
don't have
concerned
boundaries.
either, and access and all that kind of stuff, so keep
You
that
don't
in
get a
mind.
choice.
No, you don't get a choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely. Not to mention the money behind it that you need to fund it.
yes, yes. Well, guys, we're out of time again. Goes so quickly. I just love this. It's been great talking to you again, Phelan.
And to you too, Maggie.
You. Had a great time. I hope everyone's enjoyed our podcast for today. And if there's something that you'd like us to talk about, whether it's more Aussie stuff or, anything at all, that a topic that you just enjoy listening about, or you want to know what we think about, please just let us know in the comments. Well, until next week, it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
See you guys and
See you
gals.
later.
Bye.